Welcome to the Executive Lounge with me, Inshira Adu. This is the Business Thought Leadership Program that brings you nuggets of insights from the experiences of men and women who are either managing or growing businesses across sectors within Ghana and around the world. Today we're joined by the CEO of Universal Merchant Bank, Mr. John Awuah, a man who's had almost 2 decades of banking experience. And I'm sure we'll learn a lot from him. Welcome to the Executive Lounge.
Thank you very much, Inshira.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You're celebrating 45 years of banking excellence at UMB.
Yes, we are. This year marks an historic year for us, and we are excited at the bank, both the board, management, and staff of UMB. We are very excited at the prospects of what we are going to celebrate with our customers. It's already started, but there are series of activities that we've marked up to celebrate 45 years of doing proper banking. Wonderful.
Now, 2 years ago, you took over as the CEO of the bank and joined the management team. Of course, your role was to, among other things, manage the general ledger as well as really ensuring that the next phase of the bank strategy was executed well.
Yes.
What has the last 2 years been like?
I wouldn't say it's roller coaster. It's been a smooth ride to some extent, a lot of work. And I've had the opportunity or the privilege of working with the best talents in the market. And we are very much on course. We have an aggressive 5-year plan that we are seriously working on, and I'm happy to report that we are seriously on track.
That's fine. Good to know that. We'll come back to the industry in a little while, but for now, let's get to know you. Okay. Who's John Awuah?
From a very humble background, I grew up in Kumasi. Started my secondary education at Osei Secondary School, and then continued to my A-levels at Osei Secondary School. And one thing that is profound, whenever I mention those schools, is people say, but you grew up in Kumasi, where do you get your English from? I said, I said, yeah. I mean, I remember actually my first day, the first day I was to start school in Osei Secondary School, which is OKS. And if you've been following that school, it's known very well in the country for its abilities in sports.
That's right.
Actually, not in education.
Yeah.
So, as a sixth former, it's a time that you get the privilege of having to wear your trousers and your shirts, and so it's a good time in the life of every student moving from O level to A level. And then, so I took on my dress and just walking the streets of the house, and I met this man, a very, I would say, opinionated man in the neighborhood, somebody that I respected so much. So, Enki, that's my local Ghanaian name, so if I want to put it that way. Oh, you are going to school? I said, yeah. Oh, that's always cool. Then he saw the crest. Okay, I said, but which sports do you do? Which discipline? Are you 200 meters or 100 meters? So it was then that it dawned on me that, yeah, really, when you go there, you must go and prove something. So after sixth form, I had the privilege to go to University of Cape Coast. First to University of Ghana, Legon, where I was doing, I was offered BA admin. Obviously, my passion was in accounting. So as a disappointed BSc admin person, I was always looking out for, okay, should I stay or should I go? So one fine Saturday morning, I just packed everything and left Legon and went to Cape Coast. Cape Coast had run for almost 1 month at the time, so I joined midstream. So there was a lot of catching up to do. Then I would say yes, one thing to the other, and sailed through to the 3 years of university education. Came out well, and the rest they say is work.
It's been work for you. Fantastic. So you've really cut your teeth working at various levels in different banks.
Yes.
In fact, you've worked for GCB, you worked for Standard Chartered. Am I correct?
Yes.
These two.
I actually started off with Standard Chartered. Then when the Nigerian banks came to town, there were some of the bandwagons that joined the train. So I joined UBA,
okay.
United Bank for Africa, first as head of business performance, and then after a few months, as the CFO,
Okay.
which is something I did for 4 years before I joined Barclays. Then from Barclays to EcoBank Capital, from EcoBank Capital to GCB, and then from GCB to UMB.
You've seen it all in the banking sector. But quite interestingly, you've worked for multinationals, you've worked for regional banks, and you've also worked for Ghanaian banks.
Yeah.
What has the culture been across these different spaces?
I think you find that it's quite different in the various, depending on which bank that you are looking at. First, I started my career in a multinational bank. And I say this every time, though I see them, they are my competitors. Standard Chartered is the best place I have ever worked as a growing person and as a career. And at the time, I don't know what goes on over there now, but at the time, the emphasis on people development, it was an environment that really prepared me for my career, and I'm forever grateful to that bank for the opportunities that I had there. The environment and the culture at multinational environments are, I can say, very different from if you go join a regional bank like UBA, and also quite at UBA or EcoBank, and also very different from if you join an indigenous bank like UMB. What we are seeking to do is to get the best from all these environments and form our own kind of culture, which will be a good blend of multinational, regional, and then local.
In all these positions, you had walked into banks that were, one could say, pretty well established with a lot of pedigree and history. UMB had gone through a rebrand just about a year or so when you joined. Did you find, what was the first thing that you sought to do walking into a bank that had just gone through quite an interesting rebrand, but has history and has a new focus on becoming or doing away with its old merchant banking, what do you call it, pedigree, and now becoming more of a universal bank?
Yeah. Actually, to be frank with you, to the contrary, I have been part of this is about the third turnaround, so to speak. When I joined Barclays Bank, it was the lowest point in the bank's history. Their full history in this country, the time that I joined the bank was the lowest point. It was the time that they made the highest loss, or the biggest loss, if to put it rightly, the biggest loss in their history. They ranked from the top tier bank to the least, the bottom of the pile. And it was a lot of cleanup that I'm happy that I was part of, to clean up the institution, to re-energize, to reinvigorate, and to change it from that kind of position, and in 3 years to rise all the way to the top of the table. When I joined GCB, it was also undergoing a turnaround, and it wasn't the best of environment in terms of what I was used to, having done Barclays and Standard Chartered, and the systems and operations and the people are friendly, everything going smoothly. Then all of a sudden found myself in an environment where it is another culture shock, and you need to then work and then change things and turn around things. So GCB was another turnaround. Then to UMB, which in my view is the biggest turnaround, because it's a bank that for 8 successive years had been loss-making. And when you take up such a mantle, you can only go up. That is how I saw it. People said, I mean, I know of people who called me and said, why are you doing this? You are CFO of the biggest bank, and you have your comfort and everything. Why are you going here? And yes, it's the top job, but people don't last. They don't. 1 year they are gone. And there was a whole lot of, I would say, things going through my mind and people talking to me. But one good thing that I do when I take on new challenges, I try to listen, but I try to focus as much as possible on what I think I can do. And I saw only opportunities, taking on the job as the CEO of UMB. And got on our side, and with all the good people around me, the board and everyone, yes, we'll be able to turn around the bank for the first time in several years. Last year was a good profit. This year, good profit. And in fact, going forward is going to be in multiples. And that is what I think we should all be known for, to challenge ourselves. Comfort can bring about laziness, and it's good to have your comfort, but you need to challenge yourself as well.
So you've had the opportunity of working in a turnaround situation at a multinational and 2 indigenous banks.
Yes.
One very large,
Yeah.
which is GCB.
Yeah.
Now, could you walk us through what you experienced and some of the practical tools you used when you went into these turnaround situations?
Yeah. And it's also important and instructive that we note the fact that I was at different levels in all those situations.
Okay.
At one level, I was a very operational person. I was a financial controller of Barclays Bank, and that is a very operational accountant. So when there are issues with the expansion and loss of control on the general ledger and the rest, as the financial controller, that's 100% in your space. And the kind of skills that you need to do that is a bit different from when I was at GCB and as a finance director. And in a turnaround situation, you are part of the leadership, a big leadership at the executive committee, at executive level, and your level of involvement, and also at UMB, where you are the one who chairs the meetings and who drives the agenda. So it also fits quite well because I've been on the ground person, and I've been at the table, and I've been at the head of the table. And I draw experiences from all these interactions that I had. At Barclays, for instance, I found it is when you are in, I would say, in trouble that you get to know the kind of skill of the people around you. The people around you, how competent and how smart they are. And that is where I got to know that we have some very good people in this country, because you call people to the table, everyone, because we all knew the problem. So it was not too difficult. Once you identify the issue that is at stake, then all you need to do is how do we fix it? So identifying the problem is critical in any turnaround situation. And my number one advice is, in many of the times, the problems are not too many. There are very few. And the things that you fix to turn around are not more than 3, from my experience. And if you focus very well and focus your energies on the top 3 things that you identify as the things that are hurting the institution, you are very likely to succeed, to succeed in the turnaround program. And so focus is extremely important. And they say you don't have to spend your energy measuring in minor things.
That's right.
You need to spend your energy measuring in things that can turn things around.
So keeping the main thing the main.
Yeah, keeping the bigger picture on the table and letting others, handle at a certain level. So at JCB, for instance, I joined in the middle of a turnaround situation. First, you need to understand the problem. So I spent a lot of time understanding the institution. I went around the country, I interacted, and I dealt with the rank and file, everyone around. And you find that people by listening, you get to know a lot about the troubles of the organization. The UMB situation is you at the table and people talking to you about the issues. So having wide open ears is your number one weapon to get the message of what do I extract from the things we need to do to change the organization. And I'm very excited at what the decisions we came to, and the fact that we kept our priorities very simple, and we kept the things to focus on extremely simple and limited. Actually, it was only 3: people, systems, and process. Changing these 3 things completely changed the organization. And we are still in the middle of a turnaround. We have not gotten to the point where I'll look back and say, I'm a very happy person, because I'm in the middle of it still. And I'm sure as time unfolds, you will come back to us and we'll have a better opportunity to tell you exactly what else we have done to move us from where we are now to the top of the table.
That's fantastic. Now, you talk about the zeroing in on three core things: people, systems, and processes. How do you weight these?
I think your number one priority should be people. You can have the best of systems. You can have the best approach to the market. If you don't have the right people, who is not the nice people, it's not the people who will tell you the nice things, it's the people who will challenge you, sometimes do not agree with you, and they say it forcefully. If you have only yes men around the table, you are in trouble. If you are the loudest voice in the room, you should know you are in the wrong room. You need to get people who would challenge the status quo. Turning around means there's something wrong with where we are. So if there's something wrong, we cannot continue doing what we are doing. So we need to do things a bit differently. And sometimes not just a bit, it should be a step bit, like moving from ground 0 to ground 8 or ground 9 in a matter of days. So I rank people as number one. And sometimes it is not just about changing people. It is about reorienting people, letting them understand their purpose. You know, when people understand their part in the end picture properly, they become a different set of people. And as a leader, your number one priority should be sharing of the vision. Where do we be? If you pick any UMB staff now, he will tell you about our 2020 agenda. Because we have shared and we have told them by doing A, B, C, D, this is where we want to move our institution from to that level. And these are the steps we are taking to move the institution. It is when you do not see the response that you need to take action. And sometimes, I mean, it's not popular in our environment, and I'm not saying it proudly, that sometimes you have to let people go. It is a matter of leadership, that you come, you assess, you don't have to form preconceived notions about individuals. Give everybody opportunity to demonstrate what they can do. And they should share in your vision. If you are either in the ship or you are not, you are helping to save the ship or you are not. You cannot be here and there. And sometimes it is not palatable, but you must be prepared to have difficult discussions.
Very, very interesting phrase you used. Quite remember your compatriot, Mr. Andani, said exactly the same thing at some point, that there comes a time where you have to have a difficult conversation because it's about the business. It's about saving the brand. We'll talk about some of these difficult conversations and how to ensure that ultimately it doesn't shake the boat or rock the boat too much, and how you're able to keep people motivated when sometimes you've had to have several difficult decisions to make and conversations. This is the Executive Lounge. We're taking a break, and when we come back, we'll be hearing more from my guest, Mr. John Awuah. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge with me, Inshira Ado, and my guest, Mr. John Awuah, the CEO of Universal Merchant Bank. He's been telling us about his career journey and the fact that sometimes as a leader, beyond spelling the vision and getting the troops rallied behind you to work their way up and ensure that you're punching above your weight, you also sometimes have to have very difficult conversations. Now, John, you've been in 3 turnaround situations. Is this something you actually enjoy, or you coincidentally find yourself in these situations?
I don't know. Sometimes things happen and you take the challenge as they unfold. I remember when I took on this job, a former colleague of mine, he called me. People were sending congratulatory messages, and his text message was, "When will you stop scavenging?" You are always digging the gutters. When will you work in an environment where you don't have to be looking in the past? You have to always be looking in the future. And though I did not reply directly to him, my message is somebody has to be there to do it. And the point is, elsewhere in the developed world, they actually have turnaround managers. People who come, make changes. They cannot function properly in stable environments. So they come, they create all the havoc and set the organization on the solid footing, and then somebody with a more human heart and
comes and steadies the ship.
And then steadies the
off
ship
to the next one.
To the next. So I'm not saying that I'm a turnaround person, but I think I've been through sufficient, turnaround situations to say that I've had some level of, I would say, professional knowledge around how these situations can be resolved.
Sometimes turnarounds require that you not have just difficult conversations, but really you do have to, in reorienting, in reshaping culture, sometimes you have to make a deliberate decision to let go of people. In the experiences you've had so far, how are you able to ensure the soldiers on the ground still have confidence that they have a part in the big vision, even after such a storm has come?
Yeah, and I say timing is everything. And as a leader, you have to remain authentic at every point in time. Don't create doubt in the minds of people. So your word must be your bond. And the point is, being authentic means when you say, you know what, I think you are safe. I think I like the way you are approaching your work. I think you are part of the future. You mean it. And people can take your word for it. And also information sharing is key. In all the situations where we had to, have that kind of difficult conversations with people and let people go, because they were leaders and they were most of them were functional leaders, and they had, I'd say, men on the ground, and therefore you need, as we said, to ensure the boat does not sink further, but the boat stays afloat, not because the leader is absent, and everything changes, and you create a lot more holes than you met. So how do you resolve that? I did that by immediately a decision is made about a leader and conversations I had. The next move was to meet the staff of the affected area, and in some instances a broadcast. You meet the staff, you reassure them, you know what, it's not about people, it's about the bank. We want as many as possible to stay. And we want the institution to live for the next 50, 100 years. It is a matter of life that sometimes to save the many, a few must sacrifice. And it is in that spirit that we've had to, not in a happy mood, but we've had to let a few of our colleagues go, just so that the ship will stay afloat, and then we can develop the business for the future. And when you say these things, you must ensure that you live by the words that you say. And also, as a leader, if you are making these kind of drastic or taking these drastic measures, there are little soft things that you need to also introduce to soften the environment a bit. So there are some level of incentive. Okay, you know what, we will incentivize you if you do this. There are little things that we can give to you every quarter. There are these things that if you do A, B, C, D, you can get. Together with my corporate affairs team, we come out with innovative ways of engaging staff, TGIF, thank God it's Friday, health work. All these things are part of when the storm is great, you need a rallying point.
So you close ranks and still keep them going.
And keep people going. That, you know what, we have still UMB, and we are all here. Look at the environment. Look at 600 people working with us. The bank. And I remember my encounter with a customer of ours. After one of our top people had to go, I decided to also touch base with customers, because in fact they are the reason we are in business. So I went there, and the man looked at me. He said, John, I know why you are here, because ABCD has happened. But is the bank there? I said, yes. He said, yes. If the bank is there, you don't have a problem with me, because our interaction is with the bank. People come and people go. But our interaction is the institution, and we want a solid institution. We have friends that we can keep as friends, but the institution is a business partner, and we want to keep it as such. So this kind of reassuring words also helps you as a leader to even, pursue the agenda that you have on the table. I can tell you it is difficult. Whoever tells you that calling somebody to your office in a face-to-face like this and saying, from tomorrow, you are not part of this institution, is an easier task, is telling a lie. Because there's a family behind, there are friends, there are relationships, there's business, and you cannot just let this happen. So by the time you get to that level where you have to let people, you must be extremely sure that the decision you are taking is in the best interest of the institution.
You mentioned that for you communication is important in stating the vision consistently and reminding people about it, and sometimes restating the vision when you walk into a turnaround situation. Yeah. When things don't go as planned, and in leadership there will be days where you may make a call that may not be the best, what are the channels of communication you use, if at all, to admit that that call I made may not have been the best, but let's try and fix it?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
The point is, it's a very common knowledge, it's an adage in the environment that if you fail to take a decision, it means you have taken a decision to fail. So when the decision is not right, it is part of the decision-making process. You can only know the decision is not right after you have taken. If you do not, the only right person in the world is the person who does not take decisions. Because he's always right, because he's not taking any decision. But when you take a decision, it's one of two. It is either going to go in the right direction or in a direction which was not intended at the time of the decision making. And your willingness or ability to see that and accept it and say what is the next course of action makes you the leader. Leaders don't take decisions with the intention that it is definitely, it's never 100% assurance. There's always that few percentage points that can bring the whole decision making down. And if you are a leader, you need to know when to stop. When to say, I think it's time to roll back. Even in system implementation, there's a point that you implement, you go, and you get to a point and say, no, let's roll back. Let's go back to the old stock and go and recalibrate the new one. You need to know when to look back and say, you know what, guys, let's sit around the table and chart a new course. And you need to share that level of information. Sometimes, at a certain level, you know, the foot soldiers or the people who actually do the work for us, they need that level of assurance that our people are in charge. They are taking the right courses. If every time the signal to the environment is a retraction, it is a question mark on the people taking decisions in the institution. But at certain level, at the executive level, you know that no, we need to begin tweaking the decision that we took. There are a few points that are not going in the right direction. Let's change course and let's keep people focused on the new course. A few people will come asking questions and make sure that when these questions are asked, you have avenues to address them. And that is why, though it's an old-fashioned practice, but staff database and the rest are very, very effective tools. Because once the glass ceiling is broken and people feel free to talk, a whole lot of things come out. And you, as a leader, those kind of environments give you opportunities to extract things that in the climate of the organization is going around, because a lot of talks in the corridors. You can't be everywhere.
That's right.
And to be honest, if you are there, there's no talk. So the opportunity you provide and the signals or the channels you provide for people to vent their spleen when they are not happy is important. Let people know that they can even anonymously, you know, blow a whistle. Our whistle blower, when it blows, the one who receives the call is in the UK. So there's 100% assurance that you cannot even make out your voice. You know, you are instilling discipline in the environment that if you do something, the next person may be, you know,
so everyone's checking on the other.
That is correct.
In the interest of the business.
That is
and as you said, this is because it's about the brand, but not the people.
It's not about the people. And I remember my very first day, I did a presentation my very first day in the bank. We had a staff day bar, and I did a presentation. I remember I said, it's PPP, and it's not public-private partnership. It's performance, performance, performance. So if it is you, and it's about your colleague who is not doing well, and you are telling me about your colleagues, inefficiencies or lack of bad attitude and the rest, you are not reporting the colleague, you are reporting his or her performance, that we need to check the performance. And I continue reminding people that I still live by the PPP. I live by it because that is the only way you can change an institution that was not a performance-driven environment to one that people are challenged to go on the streets and bring in the next business.
UMB today is a very vibrant organization, not only in terms of the people, but also in the look and feel of the brand's identity and its expression. Compared to what Merchant Bank used to be, it was clear night and day. But how do you get the market to respond positively to a brand that has evolved, and that evolution is more visible in terms of the identity change and how you get your livery all over the place?
Our understanding of rebranding, I'm sure, is different from how other institutions have approached it. It's not about changing colors and a new logo. It's about changing everything, changing attitude, changing systems, changing our technology, changing our processes. There are processes that we have cut down from 8 steps to 2.
Wow.
To 3 in some instances. And why do we do this? We do this to fast track, for lack of a better word, to fast track our approach to the customer, or to, our dealings with the customer. Do not, if you're a business person, one thing you don't have to underestimate is the power of the consumer. Never underestimate what they want. And normally, ordinarily, if you are providing what they want, they tend to move traffic to your direction. So when you invest in such an infrastructure and you change the branding, the look and feel, the brand is the most refreshed brand in town, it is not enough. What are you providing within that ambience? What service are you providing? What products are you giving the customer? And how are customers, able to transact, or how are you meeting the customer at the point of, their concerns or their needs? All these things, when you have a program to address them, then you are rebranding in the right sense of not just changing colors and logos, but you are changing the institution. And when institutions change and the right product is there, the service levels are high, I can tell you traffic has a way of moving to the right person. And we've had people who hitherto would not even listen to us, now calling us to say, can you come and have a look at what we are doing here and see what way you can support us. They only do that not because of advertisements we have run in the newspapers or because we are now yellow and black, but because they see beyond the rebranding or the color change or the new logo. They see a new culture. They see a new kind of people. They see a new kind of technology. They see a new kind of processes. And they see a new kind of approach to the market, which is more friendly, approach to the market, which is not like the next bank or the bank that they are used to. They are seeing a different brand coming to them to say, can you do business with us? And so I believe in the philosophy that let the market determine. Do what you are supposed to do to win the customer, and let the market determine where the customer moves to.
Rebranding is obviously beyond changing colors, but more about refreshing and resetting the course of the organization, essentially. You went from loss-making to profit-making. And you're hoping to even grow further, which is fantastic. Did you find that, or what rather did you find was the mindset shift? What has changed in the people you have now? And I believe there's quite a number of them who were there before.
Yes.
Then and now.
I think it's a change more from operations to the customer. We think more like the customer than thinking like a bank. You know, if you think more like the customer, then you are empathetic. If the customer has applied for a facility and is taking years and years and months and before facility, even the customer is informed about status of the facility. Then if you are empathetic, you feel it, because if you are in the customer's shoes, and the customer lamenting on the phone or coming to the shop floor and complaining, then you put yourself in the person's shoe, then you find that, oh no, I think we have done something wrong. So it is moving away from being operational bank to a customer-centric bank, making sure the customer is at the forefront of every decision making. That this process we are introducing, to what extent does it help the customer in their interaction with the bank? So in this year in particular, our theme for the year is achieving or enhancing customer excellence.
Okay.
And what we did, as soon as we decided on the theme for the year, we picked all our projects lined up and said, let's break it into projects that are focused on customer service and prioritize them. So I can see a shift in the mindset of our people from sitting down waiting for the customer to going to the customer, to feeling for the customer, to understanding the customer, and also they are performance driven. I came to meet an institution where people pushed papers because once the thing leaves your desk, your job is done. And my philosophy is, until the job is fully done, if you push the people to the next desk, you have a responsibility of a follow-up to ensure that that next desk is not being a problem in the chain, because you cannot be the most efficient person or efficient process in the chain and the whole chain fails because the last person or the last but one failed to deliver on time to the customer. So this is what in my personal assessment, and sometimes some of these things I want to leave to third parties to talk about. It's you don't play your, but
you don't harp on about your own successes.
Yeah. You want somebody else to talk about. But since you ask, I think there's a complete mindset shift from just walking, and when I say this, sometimes it's not nice, but I say don't walk as if to the bank as if you are walking to the hospital. If you are a banker, the way you walk to the bank itself tells a story about who you are. Walk confidently, briskly, because you are going to serve somebody who may be waiting for you. So don't walk as if you are not feeling well and you are visiting the clinic or the hospital. And when I say this, people
walk with purpose.
Yeah, you understand. I have another terminology that I use, but I won't use on sets because for obvious.
We shall learn about that later. Wonderful. But I think you know, it's like you said, evidently not been easy.
Yeah.
But there's a steely determination and a focus in a lot of what I'm gleaning from the submissions you've made. If you look back at your career, be it at EcoBank or GCB or Barclays, Standard Chartered, or at UMB, what was that one bad day for John? And how did you find strength to bounce back from that and just keep pushing forward?
You know, I'm still a very young man, and most of my people are still